You're listening to Ideal Practice episode number 168. Today, guys, we're going to talk about why it is so freaking important that you prioritize your own financial self-care as a practice owner, whether you are brand new at this or you've been at it for a long time. My guest, Carla Titus, knows that way too many of you are not paying yourself, or if you are, you're treating yourself as an afterthought. And we have got to fix that for countless reasons. There are so many goodies, so many very specific actionable steps here, and some just downright smart advice that I really, really want you to hear. And be sure and stick around to the end, because that sweet bit of wisdom that Carla drops right as we're wrapping up, perfect. So, stay tuned. Hi, I'm Wendy Pitts-Reeves, and with over 2 decades of experience in the private practice world, I've built my 6-figure business while learning a lot of lessons the hard way. This is the first podcast that shows you how to apply the principles of energy, alignment, and strategy to build a practice that is profit-centered, but people-forward. This is the Ideal Practice Podcast. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Ideal Practice Podcast. This is Wendy Pitts-Reeves, your host, and I am thrilled to be hanging out with you again today. We have got such a great program for you today. I am really digging into how to teach you what you need to know to run a financially healthy practice. I have struggled with this off and on throughout my career. I'm a lot better at it than I used to be, but I am still learning. I'm always learning because this stuff doesn't come natural to me either. So I love seeking out and finding guests who have a sense of humor, a sense of presence, real practical, strategic ways to teach us and also get us. And that's what today's guest does. Carla Titus gets us. You can hear it in the things that she says. And I will tell you, even after we stopped recording this episode today, even as we talked afterwards, she was still dropping truth bombs on me in a way that just was delightful. And I found myself thinking, man, I wish I'd caught that during the interview. For instance, one of the things she said to me at the end was that women are often more successful business owners than men because they are not quite as into taking unnecessary risks. They do take care of their staff and their people, and they have the intuition that goes along with the sort of left brain, practical, strategic side that they need to bring to the practice. I love that, and she had data to support that. And she has some very helpful things to suggest for us that I think you're going to benefit from. Carla is a finance expert. She's got over 17 years of combined experience in corporate financial planning, analysis, strategy, and online business experience. All that stuff that kind of makes my brain tired. She provides fractional CFO services and financial consulting to business owners who want to grow their business profitability. Now, you'll hear her talk about bookkeeping in here and what role that plays. That's important. But the main thing that she does is she helps you figure out, where do you want to get to? So how are we going to do that? How can we set up your business and your finances to get you there? Her mission with her company, which she calls Wealth and Worth Within. Wealth and worth, because so many of us have worthiness issues right around income. Her business, her mission is to empower business owners like you and me to achieve financial clarity. Okay, I see the numbers, great or not great, I see them. And peace of mind. Peace of mind. So we can get back to what we enjoy. One of the things, let me see if I can find it in my notes here. One of the things she said, one of the quotes that I wrote down from her today, she said, if you want to get excited about your business again, you need to fix your numbers. And you know what? She's right about that, because when the numbers are good, we're going to be feeling good, and we're going to be happier about what we're doing. She's also very funny. So I hope you love her as much as I did, because I certainly did. And without further ado, let's get in to the interview. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Ideal Practice Podcast. I'm so glad you're here with me today. You have already heard a little bit about our guest, Carla Titus. Carla, am I saying that right? It is Titus, right? Not,
It is
yeah.
Titus. Yeah.
Just occurred to me. I should double check that. So you've already heard a little bit about Carla. Let me go ahead and just welcome her to the podcast. Say hi, Carla.
Hi. Thank you for having me today. So excited for our conversation. I think a lot of people will find usefulness in it and some practical advice to implement in their business.
100%. I'm excited about this too. When we met before, the minute I met you, I was like, oh, I love this woman's energy. I want her on the show. I think you're going to be the kind of person who speaks truth to us in a way that we need to hear. Yeah.
With kind words. Yeah.
With
But
kind
definitely
words.
truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I like to get started by just kind of setting the stage a little bit. Tell everybody my favorite question, which is where are you in the world? And then a little bit about who do you serve and how do you serve them?
Yeah, we're looking in Oregon, but we work virtually, remotely with all of our clients all over the US. And we were doing remote work before remote work was cool. So I feel like this is just like, the future was already here when we started. And then who we serve is mental health group practices, service providers in the healthcare fields that are maybe feeling like they're not good with numbers. Like they self identify as numbers are not my thing. I'm not good at money. I'm not good at math. And they just want to start to feel empowered and in control of it, but they don't even know who to look to support them. And so we come in to help them get financial clarity, get real understanding of what's happening in their numbers, and also give them actionable steps to take to improve their financial situation, regardless of which stage of growth they're in, because we do have various ranging services that helps them regardless of, how small or how big they might be, because everyone can benefit from good financial management. And even if you weren't educated in it and you don't feel like our job is to close that educational gap and then get you on a place where you feel like you could start to work on your numbers, look at your numbers, feel comfortable with your numbers, and then even start feeling good about your numbers eventually.
That's crazy.
Like, what?
That's crazy.
Possible?
What do you mean?
Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
right. For real. Do you specifically focus on mental health or do you work with like all different kinds of health practices or, do you work with small businesses in general or do you have
Yes.
a particular, yeah. Okay.
We
Okay.
just have a really defined niche in mental health. We're really understanding of like the type of industry, like the nuances of the industry. But we also
Yeah.
work with broadly healthcare in general, practitioners of all types, from functional medicine, chiropractors, massage therapists, anyone that, needs that insight
Yeah.
into financial management. And then we also have clients completely in different industries. What we find is bringing in some of that other industry experience into, other industries that we work with sometimes works and clients didn't even know because they're like so, narrowed into how their industry works, how we do things here and only that way. And we're like, well, there's three other ways in other industries do it. How about if we
Ah,
consider some of that and see how it plays out in our industry?
oh, I love that. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah,
Learn from lots of people. Absolutely.
that's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Why mental health? Like, what was it that drew you?
Mm.
How did you get into this to begin with? I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, it's a funny story because I was in healthcare or, back in like a few jobs back before I got into finance. I was in healthcare. I run financial assistance and insurance contracting and clinic audits for a hospital.
Oh,
And then I went to school to get my undergrad in finance, went to work for tech for 11 years in various roles and kind of left that behind. But I really had like this tied to, everybody should be healthy, everybody should have access to healthcare. How do we get back to do more of that? And I told my husband, I was like, hey, I should be the CFO of a healthcare organization. And he's like, well, don't you have a business? Can you just do that? And I was like,
ah,
oh my God, I can. And then I started to, attend mental health conferences, really understand the industry, got to learn more about how that operates and utilizing some of my healthcare background. We developed really good tools that now help our mental health practices understand what's happening with their clinical capacity, their average reimbursement rate session count, things that are driving the business and how they have some control of that. And then where we don't have control, what else can we do to help them?
yeah.
And then that expanded to, all healthcare type of businesses because they are pretty similar. They sometimes deal with insurance, sometimes they're private pay. It just depends on their specific type of business, but they're for the like as far as like the business model goes, it's very similar across.
And I did not realize you had that background. That's really good. I'm so glad I asked that question because that means you have seen the ugly inside of what the billing works like in a hospital,
Yes,
right? With
it's a
lots
mess.
of zeros on the end, and then you bring that down to our level. It's smaller, but you're right. It's the same thing, same thing, and it is such a challenge dealing with that. Well, I don't do insurance in my own practice and haven't for a very long time. And just recently, I interviewed somebody about the insurance billing industry and what that's like and different ways to do it. And man, it brought back a lot of horror stories for me. I was like, "Ooh, glad I don't do that anymore." But are you providing bookkeeping services? Are you providing tax preparation? Are you providing financial advising and that kind of thing? Like, what level of service are you offering?
Yeah, great question. So we are mainly doing fractional CFO type of work. So this is forward-looking financial planning, forecasting, growth strategies, financial strategy and direction setting for the business. So you've done this, but what do you actually want to achieve? And then we work with you on a plan that's actionable. Do you need to hire two more people? Do you need to open another location? Are you going to invest in marketing? If so, what marketing? And helping them break down the plan to make it realistic on things they actually can do to achieve those goals. So that's really what we started the company around. Now we ended up adding a bookkeeping department to our business because we saw a lot of bookkeeping need where we just had bookkeepers that weren't trained or they didn't know accounting and they were struggling to support our clients in the bookkeeping needs. And as a CFO, I can't work with data that is not accurate, right? Because then
Yeah,
garbage in, garbage out. So
yeah.
what we did is when we have good service providers that come with our clients, we keep them. Like we're not here to replace anyone. But when there is a struggle, the client is already like, I don't like my bookkeeper. I've outgrown my bookkeeper skill set. Then they might choose to work with us on bookkeeping, but that is not a requirement. We just have it because we found the need and we needed to be able to provide a solution to our clients because the data is such an integral part of what we do. They couldn't
Yeah.
just ignore it.
I love that. So you can't do anything if you don't know if you don't have accurate information, accurate data, knowing your numbers. So you're right. You're
Hmm.
right. A lot of folks in this world don't have any idea what their money is, where it's going, how they're making it, that kind of stuff. But what I'm hearing you say is that if you've already got clean numbers, we can help you figure out how to get where you want to go. If you don't have clean numbers, we're going to start there, and
Hmm.
then we'll figure out where you go and how you want to get there, and let's make that work. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's our approach because we want to make sure we are solid on the foundation before we build the
Yeah.
house. And
Yeah.
we can't do that unless the foundation is there and it's not
Yeah.
cracking. And, if we have to fix it and repair it, that's okay. We can do that too. So they're not going, having to search for someone to help assist with that. We can do it all here with our two departments.
It's so true. The foundation isn't good. Nothing else is going to work. And one of the things that you and I talked about, and I didn't plan to get into this, but it was one that when I first met you, but our conversation went very quickly when we met before was talk about the foundational practice of paying yourself a salary.
Mm, so critical.
Yeah.
Hmm.
How
Yes.
how often do you how much of an issue is this in the people that you've worked with? Do most of the people do it or don't do it or what? Like what have you learned about that?
Yeah, I think it's broad ranging and it depends on like the owner. I think there's like a mindset piece to this that never gets talked about, and that is around worthiness of an
Mhm.
owner taking a paycheck, an owner feeling like, they can afford to pay themselves, and also
Yeah.
like trying to align to whatever they've made before they went into business. Maybe they were a W-2 and they had a salary compensation or an hourly, and they're just trying to match that to start. In some cases, I just see owners, they're not paying themselves anything because they never made room in their budget to prioritize themselves. And this habit compounds up to seven-figure businesses that still struggle to pay the owner. And that's because they just allocated to other expenses, prioritize the team payroll, everything else. And then there's no money left or room left for the owner to get paid. Where we have a very different approach. We're like, the owner has to get paid period, because we don't want them to grow resentful of their business. We want them to put in the work because they put in the work no matter what, and they need to be paid a living wage. Now that might not be what they used to make, it might not be as good as it can be though with the right financial management.
Yeah.
But we can, work with them to get them. So first step is, if you're not paying yourself today, first step is you need to carve out budget out of your current revenue to allocate something to you that's consistent. And consistent is the key because it's a habit you haven't developed before. And I
Mm-hmm.
find that when owners haven't paid themselves for so long, they just think it's okay and they just kind of, feel defeated and they just
Mm-hmm.
consider it, this is just never going to happen. So I guess this is
Mm-hmm.
how we're going to live, let alone people putting money into the business to even cover expenses, right? So
Right.
if you're not paying yourself today, the habit starts with assign an amount that is manageable to start and start paying yourself consistently every month that same amount or every 2 weeks, whatever your payroll cycle is.
So I want to understand the problem before we get too quick into the solution. All right. So in your experience, because you have talked to so many practice owners, when you say people aren't paying themselves, do you mean like literally, like they're just working and all the money's going back into the business, or they're paying themselves a little bit but not enough? Like what does this literally mean? What do you see people doing? Because
Both.
nobody knows. Nobody asks this question and nobody talks
Right.
about it.
Only I get to see behind many
Right.
businesses that we work with. But
Yeah.
the trends are both. So there's the business owners that say to me, well, I just want to grow this business at all costs. So I don't care if I don't get paid. It's fine. I don't need to take a paycheck. Let me just invest everything back in. And then one day, maybe I'll sell it for millions, or one day I'll eventually pay myself. Right. So there's that approach. And I don't think that's a choice, is what we
Yeah.
say. And I think there should be room for profit and pay for the owner, but that's just my philosophy.
Yeah.
Then you have the owners that pay themselves, but they pay themselves below market rate. And that is sometimes intentional, sometimes it's just what's available, what they think they can afford because they never run their numbers.
Yeah.
And again, there's just this lack of understanding of what's happening inside their numbers in their business that makes them feel uncomfortable to go any higher. And
Yeah.
when we push on that because we are budgeting and planning and we see there's room for it, they actually might push back and say, well, I don't know if I want to do that. And so we'll
Oh,
help
really?
them kind of baby their way up to a market rate for their position. But yeah, the problem is that I think, again, mindset, right? They don't think maybe they're worthy of pay, or maybe they don't think they're doing enough for the business to be compensated at that level. Maybe is here's what I used to get paid in my day job. So I don't know how I would pay myself any more than that. And
Mm,
sometimes it's like the business just can't afford to pay them the
mm.
amount that they want to be paid, and they're not sure how to solve that issue.
Do you think that affects their mental health when they're not paying themselves? Like they themselves, do you think it affects their overall health and well-being when they're not drawing a paycheck in some regular way?
Yeah, I think it definitely depends on their like personal financial situation.
Yeah,
If they're like not feeling like they have to get paid, that's different.
because they have
I
another source of income or
Yeah,
they have other resources, right?
exactly. They have
Yeah.
someone else or something else that's supporting them. So they're like, oh, it's okay. I'll be fine. But
Mm.
what they don't realize is that that's devaluing their contribution to the company. And,
Yes.
it's not even like thought of, but it really is. It's saying like, well, your time and effort and what you put into here is worth $0 back to you. And I think your business owes you a few things, right? And one is like your compensation package as
Mm.
an owner, because one day, if you don't want to be the owner of this, you should be able to hire someone and replace them with that paycheck to come in
Yeah.
and do the work, and then you collect profit. So that's one thing. And then I just feel like at times business owners are just like, I am not a priority. Like the
Mhm.
business is a priority, or reinvesting back in XYZ. Like, let me buy the 10 programs, the 10 courses, the marketing, the this and that. And they're just like
Yeah.
spending all the money and not thinking of themselves as one of the main priorities. Like the business is here because you created it. You're still probably running it. Even if you have a team, you're probably involved in some decision making that's critical for the business growth. You're setting the direction.
You're the
Like these are
CEO.
valuable contributions. You're the CEO.
Yeah.
You should be compensated
You said
accordingly.
something to me. You said something to me last time we talked that was really funny, and I'm going to get it wrong, but it was something to the effect of send this out to any CEO in the world and ask them to come run your business for free. They are not going
Yes,
to do that. Like that's
that
crazy
is exactly it. Yeah, because nobody would take the job for $0, right? So
for
why are
real.
you doing the job for $0? That's always my question. And then we
Yeah,
can uncover
almost
what's
like
underneath that.
even if you are planning to sell it, or even if you are just growing it as an investment, whatever, don't you deserve to make something? Because otherwise, you really are doing it for free, and it's a lot of freaking work to run a practice
Yeah.
and to grow a practice. That's true. So that makes me think about there's a couple things in here that are already getting my attention. One is I have made that mistake of I've always paid myself something, but I have made the mistake of over investing back into the practice or back into the business. And part of that is because I am that person who's like, I don't want to look at that. I've gotten better at it. I've learned, but I've had to really work at it. And the easy little trick that I fall into, or the trap that I used to fall into, I'm really, really trying to get better at it, is that, oh, it's a business expense. I can write that off. It's a business expense. I can write
Oh
that off.
my goodness. We're gonna
Business.
get into that, aren't we?
Yeah. So and I had a friend in a mastermind that was saying that in working with her bookkeeper, she realized that she was putting something like 60% of her revenue back into the business. So she's taken home less than half of what she makes. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, wow, I need to figure this out. And I wasn't that bad, but it was bad. So I like that it's just so easy to go, I can justify anything. It's fine. It's all an investment. It's fine. You can take that too far.
Yeah, we definitely
Right?
see that. And it's because there's no guidelines that you
Yes.
created in your business around how will the profits be distributed, to what
Yes.
use, and why. And what we see a lot of people is like they're because they haven't carved out the money to pay themselves. They're like, oh, well, there's this new program, this new thing. Let me just invest in it and I'll get it back
Mhm.
in some form of return on investment, but that never materializes or they
Mhm.
never track it. So they have no idea if they actually got it
They
back.
don't track it. That's the
They
thing.
don't
You don't
track
even
it.
know. Right.
So
Maybe
there's
it
no
does, maybe it
expectations
doesn't.
going in and
Yeah.
there's nothing coming out at the end. And they keep investing in it over and over again, thinking
Yeah.
something will change and magically they'll get all this 10
Yeah.
times the money they invested. And that's not always true. And then second, it's like they just never made a rule saying like, well, maybe only 40% of my profit will go back to reinvest in the business. The other 60 will stay in the business to either cover taxes, cover, our cash runway we need for just unexpected, and to also give me a profit distribution because again, they're not prioritizing themselves. And there's not that formula that says, here's your cap, here's where you want to stop and not over invest back.
Yeah.
And the problem we have is a lot of social media and things out there are saying scale at all costs. I don't care if you make any profit, just get to $1 million plus, $5 million plus. And even though you're losing money every year because you make no profit, just get there. It's fine. So
Mhm.
keep investing back because, these people are selling you stuff. So of course they want you to spend your money. And you said business write off. Oh my God, I don't want to get into the soapbox, but
Please, get
you
on the
have
soapbox.
you have worked hard for that money.
Mm,
Why are you just throwing it up in the air to whatever thing comes your way because
mm,
it's a quote unquote business write off?
mhm.
You know that paying taxes actually means you're making profit.
Right.
R- just to be clear, because I think a lot of information that there's like pay zero taxes. And I'm like, listen, I'm all about like let's find legal ways to reduce our taxable bill. For
Yep.
sure. Always.
Yep.
The problem is people are looking at that before they even start making profit. I'm like, there is no tax strategy to pay less tax if you don't even make profit. So let's not even worry about that. Step one, make
Right. Make
profit.
some money first.
And then
Yeah.
that to
Yeah.
make profit, that means you can't just throw money and waste money on whatever thing comes your way. You
Mm,
have to be very intentional about your spending. And in order to be intentional with your spending, you need to be able to plan and allocate to the right expenses at the right level for your business, for the goals you're trying to achieve. And a lot of people are not taking the time to sit down and think about what that is for their business. They're just following whatever their friend is doing, or like someone in another
Or
industry is
nobody.
doing this, or nobody.
Nobody. No one ever taught me that. Nothing even close to that. Like, I just sort of jumped into it and started figuring it out, and it was basically bringing enough money to pay the rent, pay my malpractice, and whatever's left over, bring it home and hope it buys groceries, right? There was zero planning. I mean, I'm old, right? So I started a long time ago. There was no internet. That's how old I am. Like, it was I started in the early 90s. My practice started in the early 90s. And I have had to learn over time. But even today, nobody says, here's a healthy way to structure your practice. Here's what a reasonable overhead should be. And here's what that overhead has to cover. Here's a reasonable amount to expect to take home. If you're only making $100 a week, you got to make this much has to go home and this much has to, whatever. You just said, people throw the stuff at it and get to $1 million or $5 million. My people are doing good to get to $50,000 or $80,000 or maybe $120,000, right? Depending upon where you live in the country, it's very different. I live in East Tennessee. Standard of living is quite lower here than it is in, say, Minneapolis or LA. But I've never, to this day, I don't think I've ever heard anyone say, here's a reasonable way to expect to divide the revenue, not income, the revenue, the total amount of money that's coming into your practice. I've heard of the profit first stuff, which is that does actually help. That's the first thing I ever came across that kind of gave me a structure. But I don't know what's reasonable in terms of How much should you pay for your rent, for your office? How much should you pay for staff, a team? How much should you spend on software and, subscriptions to pay for your Zoom, whatever it is? I have no idea. You have like a framework of some sort, don't you, that you like to teach? Do you want to walk us
Yeah.
through that a little bit? Would that help?
Yeah, we have percent allocations we like to see, and depends on like the stage of growth for the business and
Yeah.
what they're trying to achieve. So those are going to vary. That's the thing
Yeah.
is blanket advice I never subscribe to because I think everybody has different goals they're trying to achieve. And in
Yeah.
the goals, we're going to allocate differently based on that. But some guidelines that get thrown around, especially when it comes to like profit first, which I think is a good first step to just get control and handle of what's happening
Mm-hmm.
cash flow wise
Mm-hmm.
in your business, but it doesn't solve like the lack of budget allocation that you didn't create in the first place to understand where
Yeah.
the money needs to go first
Yeah.
versus when the money comes in and you actually are spending it. So there is, guidelines that are provided, and then sometimes those guidelines are not where we're at today. So then we create a plan on how do we get a client to those guidelines, either
Yeah.
through revenue growth, which is my favorite one. I'm like, I'm not about cutting expenses. I know you're spending too much time on your nickel and dime subscriptions and things that don't move the needle. I'm like, just go make more money. Like
Go
that's
make more
always like
money.
my
Yeah.
go-to. Like, let's go find how do we increase our revenue? Answer
Yeah.
that question first because it will be
Yeah.
I know that you get so stuck on like, well, this is what I've done, this is what has worked before. I'm like, well, what could it be? Like, what are possibilities, opportunities for growth? Is it a new service line? Is it a new way that we charge? Is it the cadence so you see your patients? Like, you need to get some of those levers and ideas moving and test them out. And then when they work, scale them, do
Yeah.
more of it.
Yeah.
And it's so much easier to focus on the growth side because there's no upper limit. Your expenses are cut by how much little you can spend, and then there's zero, and that's it. Right. And so I see people focus on like, the $10 subscription. I'm like, that's great, but can you just in that time you spend figuring that out, could you make another $100 instead
Mm-hmm.
in revenue, right? So again, we want to make sure we focus our attention on the things that are going to move the needle. So if you're paying too much for rent, for example, if your rent allocation is too high, maybe it is worth looking for a different space, making that move and improving your percentage there because
Yeah.
that is going to move the needle in your business because it's a large expense.
Right.
Same thing with compensation. If you have other people that are working with you and you're compensating them, and that is one of your biggest or largest items in your budget, looking at how you're compensating people and making sure that you're making the necessary changes going forward with every new hire to adjust for that. We always want to pay people fairly. We're not here to take advantage of people, but you have to have the right compensation to be able to be profitable. And
Right.
I always say you can't have impact if you don't have profits. So all of you out there who
Mm.
are like, I'm mission driven, I want to change the world. Yes, but the business needs profit to be able to
Mm.
do more of that. So you need to be able to fund that impact with profit. So if that hasn't been a priority before, now is the time.
That's a writer downer, and I'm writing it down. If you can't have impact if you don't have profit. That is so
It's a
true.
hard truth.
It is a hard
Even
truth. So,
nonprofits need money.
well, in ideal practice, I call it, I say that we need to be profit centered, people forward, which means if you're not making money, you can't do anything else. Like that really does have that. It's what drives a healthy business, and you're not going to serve people or help people in any way if you're not making a profit. You will burn out, and you will flame out, and there won't be anything left, and you're not going to do anybody any good, including your family, including yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and including your clients. So, one of my questions I think I want to ask because I see this in people a lot, and I can remember feeling this way when you're just getting started and you're building your practice and every penny is going to, your Psych Today profile or making sure your office works or getting a little marketing going. How the heck do you pay yourself? And let's just add an extra layer to that. If you are taking insurance, so like in my practice, it's all self-pay. I get paid every week, every day. Money comes in. Like it's no biggie, and I'm not waiting on anything. I have no accounts receivable. I'm not waiting.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are working with insurance, you are often waiting weeks, sometimes months for that money to come in. So the cash flow really can be
Mm-hmm.
quite challenging. How the heck do you pay yourself in that when you're just getting started and the money is really slow to start coming in? How do you do
Yeah,
it?
this is the real case scenario, right? Like
Yeah.
people start businesses for nothing and they have to sometimes start by putting money in
Yeah.
before they start to get money out.
Yeah.
So what I tell my owners is like, if we're going to talk about reality is you probably came in to start your business with some sort of seed fund where you personally might have written a check to your business to start.
Mhm.
Okay. That's what we call owners equity. So when we put money into the business, we record it as an equity. This is not free money that you will never see again. This is money you're lending the business from your
Yeah.
personal bank account. And this is where I don't see a lot of people doing this or tracking it, let alone where I'm just going to make this up, right? We put $10,000 in to get started to be able to pay for the profiles, the website, the rent, the
Yeah.
insurance waiting period. And we allocate for that and we record that that's been done because one day when we start to make more money, you're going to pay yourself back that money,
Yeah.
right? So think of it as an investment in getting your business started. Now, from that, you need to decide what's going to be allocated to what. Part of it could be pay yourself back every month for that loan that you give the business, and maybe in
Mhm.
small quantities at first. And as the business start to produce the revenue, because maybe 30, 60 days later, you start to get those insurance checks in.
Mhm.
It doesn't take long. There is a period of wait, right? And then you're going
Right.
to build claims upon claims upon claims. And then ideally you'll have a stack of claims from previous 2, 3 months back that you're
Once you
getting
get
paid on.
going, right.
Right. So the
Mhm.
first 2 months is going to be rough. Like, let's be honest. Like, you're putting money in, you might not be getting any money out yet, maybe a small amount to pay the loan back. But that's essentially how you start a business, right? And then as you build that insurance claim payments coming in every week, every day, you start to see revenue coming in and you can measure that and say, okay, what percentage of my revenue am I going to pay myself versus what percentage am I going to allocate to growing that marketing, that subscription, that, group program, whatever you're
Mhm.
doing to get your business up and running and growing. Because the goal is now, okay, now we need to grow the revenue. We need to keep growing the business, see more clients, patients. We
Right.
need to attract them from somewhere. They're not just going to come show up at your door knocking. It's like, oh,
Right.
you're open. Great. You got to put some effort, right? And then you got to be consistent in that effort so that you can start to see the results. And then go do more of that what's working well because I see too many people are trying too many things and they don't even know where the results are coming from, so then you're working just hard for nothing. And then you should in 6 months have some consistent flow in to the business. And ideally, you have not spent more than you're making. And this
Mm.
is key because when you're just getting started, you're not going to go rent the 5 office building down the street. You're going to rent
Right.
one room in a co-working space that's, private enough to see your clients until you need extra space.
Yeah.
You're only going to get the basic website for now. You can always redo it later. I see people trying to jump steps ahead. They're like trying to be this big business where they're investing all this big money on things, and it's like it's just not the right time. We're not saying never. You say like start small, build up. Over time, you pick up new, bigger investments as you start to see the business.
Yeah.
And also, what happens? Okay, 6 months in, you got this revenue coming in. Now you can go to the bank and be like, "Hey, bank, I would like a loan because I want to grow the business and I'm going to invest in marketing and hiring people and getting a bigger space." And the bank's like, "Oh, you're actually making money. I might be able to let you borrow some money," right? And sometimes they'll require 2 years of in business or other collateral personal guarantees to lend you money. But
Right.
that's where we start to see the power of a profitability helping you obtain other source of funding that's not your personal bank account.
Okay, you just said a whole lot. I want to review it if I can. Okay. So, and if my brain can keep up, I'm like, okay, I can do this. You said that, first of all, owner's equity is a term that I did not know.
Oh,
I did not
that's on your
know.
balance sheet. That's
Look
why.
at that. Yeah. I,
Other
I
statement.
I've thought of it as, making a loan to your business, like, and I've done that even in small ways. If I paid for something out of my personal account that really
Mhm.
should have come out of business, my bookkeeper says that's just a loan to your business, right? So
Mhm.
okay. But what you just said that's new to me was in the beginning, you may loan your business like a significant amount of money to cover all that it takes to get going. And then you're off and running. And as you are building from the very beginning, you said you've got to allocate percentages. And you just without going into categories and details, in my mind, based on what you just said, I wrote down a percentage for paying yourself, a percentage for growth, you said, and I wrote down a percentage for maintenance. Right? There's the growing your practice, which is marketing, paying for profiles, buying ads on social media if you want
Attending
to.
events, yeah.
Right, attending events, sponsoring the local high school football team,
Mhm.
right? That's growing your business versus just running your business,
Mhm.
which is paying your office rent and paying your utilities and paying your malpractice. That's just steady stuff that you're always going to have,
Mhm.
but paying yourself. So I wrote down in my mind, I thought, 3 ways to allocate it from the beginning. How much do I want to spend on growing this place? How much do I need to just run it? And how much am I going to pay myself in the very beginning? But then you said, but you also have to pay yourself back. And what I have not done, that this is so helpful for me, if you'll bear with me, I am always learning on myself when I interview people like you. There's a reason why I talk about this so much. I am the poster child for all the things we need to do better. But what's new to me here, what I've done is kind of nickel and dime it, like a little bit here and there, like loan a little bit, pay a little bit back, loan a little bit, pay a little bit back, pay yourself a little bit. But it's not been with that sort of intentionality that I'm hearing you say. Um, and if you loan yourself a chunk of, let's say you're going to start a practice and you spend the year before putting money aside to start that practice,
Mhm.
that's your first loan. You've got a solid amount there, and then you build that into that allocation to pay yourself back like a real loan.
Mhm.
That's a that's a kind of a new, cleaner way of thinking about this that I'm hearing from you. And then you just said, and then go once you get up and running and you've got a track record, go to a bank and get a loan. That would never occur to me.
Oh, wow, okay,
Would
that's
never
new.
occur to me. Yeah.
I'm
I
like,
would
"Why
like, why
use
would
your
I
own
go borrow
money?
money?
Like, let's use someone else's money, like, it's
Yeah.
even I mean, you're gonna pay it back, like, the goal is
Yeah.
we grow the business so we can afford to pay it back, and I'll
Yeah.
just say, like, on your allocation, the way I think about growth is growth should be funded by the profits of the business. So you can allocate for maintaining and you can allocate for your pay, and there should be profit left that then we use to allocate towards growth
Got it.
because we don't want to take, more from the business
Yeah.
day to day. So like ideally it's coming out of profit for whatever you're investing back for growth. And the loan thing, it's something we work with a lot of our clients because they're maybe they've been in business a little bit longer, but even if you're just getting started, there are programs, there are grant programs, there's banks that will give you like a small amount. They're not going to take a big risk on a new business,
Yeah.
but there are ways that you can apply to access capital. And I think there's just not something we talk about often. And you just have to have a positive financial position and a track record that shows, hey, I am a worthy business. And also banks sometimes that get the industry will loan on receivables. So if you have a receivables balance waiting for insurance, they know that money is coming. They know you already earned it. They just haven't gone in it yet. So they'll loan against that sometimes as well. So why not leverage that in a responsible right way with a plan to pay it back, by the way, because this is where people get lost. They're like, oh, I
Yeah.
just took all this money and then I'm good. And it's like, no. And now you have to make sure that in the next month when the loan payment comes, you've budgeted and allocated for that because you're gonna have to pay it back over, whatever time period.
I want to come back to basics here. Well, just to finish that thought before I go there, can you say a little bit like what would a small practice owner borrow money for? What would that loan? What would they use
Mm,
that loan for
yeah.
before I close this?
Yeah, the bank calls it use of funds. So what you want to be able to tell the bank is the truth, right? You don't want to
Yep.
lie in the application. And
Yeah.
it should be focused around growth. So it could be hiring
Okay.
another person to do what you do more of. Not necessarily like admin support, but more like another service provider that can generate revenue, right? Because the bank is like, oh, you're going to make more money? Yeah, here's some money. Go ahead because we know you can pay us
So would that be like
back.
a marketing director, a social media manager,
It could be marketing related. So
someone
if
to do
you're
your
going to
website?
yeah, if you're gonna grow the business, websites is kind of like
No.
because it's a
Okay.
long-term play, and I think
Okay.
people don't realize that. But like if it's an SEO marketing agency or someone that's gonna help you generate more client leads, because what the bank wants to know is like, how are you gonna make more money so you can pay us back?
Mm-hmm.
They want to know how are you gonna grow so you can pay us back. They only care about you paying them back. So
Of
you
course.
need to be able to tell them these are the investments I'm making and why I need the money
Yeah.
to be able to grow the business. The other piece could be yeah, to fund that, essentially time between when you get the insurance payment to be able to bring in more people, hire, ramp up, maybe hire a biller that can help bill faster and get your
Yeah.
receivables sooner. Like that's also a good use of funds. So you just have to think through like how are you going to use the money to grow your business and generate more profit because the bank wants that. And of course they're charging you interest. So it's not like they're not making money. So they
Right.
just want to know that you can pay them back. So you got to be able to tell them what is your growth plan and how will you use the money to grow the business.
Such a good idea that I would never have thought of. But it also makes me think this is why it's so important to have a really clear-eyed assessment of where you stand and where you're going. Like this is where I'm at 6 months in, a year in, let's say 2 or 3 years in. Like you've been in practice for a while. Because when I was thinking when I first started my practice, I rented one office from somebody else. And then I moved to a new place where it's me and a friend became business partners, and we rented a space that had 3 offices. We brought somebody in to join us, and then we moved to another place a little bit bigger, right? And then eventually kind of kept going from there, new business partners, and eventually it had a 3-story Victorian house with lots of space and all those kinds of things. But it was definitely a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. I did not set out with a plan. I was just like, let's move.
It's
Can we
time.
afford it? Let's move.
We
Right.
got more patience than we have clinicians. Let's go.
Let's go. We
Yeah.
need more room. That's really funny. I want to come back to so I guess I think sort of the theme of this that I'm learning from you is from the beginning, do yourself a favor and sit down either, with yourself or with a trusted friend or a trusted advisor and sort of map out kind of a vision for where you want this thing to go and start thinking about financially what's going to take to get you there. Is that fair? Am I getting that right?
Yeah, I'll say it always starts with like, what are you trying to achieve? Because
What are you
that's a
doing?
little bit easier. Like, you probably have some ideas and you never sat down to write them down. I just went through this exercise for my own business where I was looking at what the next 3 years look like.
Yeah.
And then it really made super clear what the next 90 days, the next year, the next,
Yeah.
milestones are going to be that I need to achieve in order to get to that goal or get me on the direction of getting to that goal. And at first it felt really like, oh, it's just in my head. I don't know. And like I do this for a living. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and do the planning.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's when I'm like, I gotta get super clear so I can take action
Mhm.
and get there even faster, probably, because now I know the plan and I know what I need to do. So I can, work through the pieces. And it just write like brain dump everything you're thinking about.
Mhm.
And then it will come into a plan and maybe run it by a friend who's a business owner that can kind of help you make sense of it. But you probably have some ideas and then you need to decide which ones are you going to be working on and towards. What are roughly the goals? Like, do you want to have 2 more providers? Do you want to stay solo? If you're solo, what kind of services do you want to provide? Do you want different type of clients? Do you want to, branch out to a different geography? Like, what are some of those components of growth that you haven't considered?
Yeah.
And then you stick some numbers to that plan because it starts with the plan, the vision, and then you got to back out into, okay, what is this going to cost me or take in
Yeah.
order for that to be reality? And that's the work that we do with a lot of our clients is, okay, you have this vision, but let's put the execution piece and the investment allocations needed to be able to get there outside of what we do today.
Mhm.
How are we going to achieve this much bigger goal? And sometimes it's, yes, we need more marketing. What type of marketing? When, where, how? We need 2 more providers. By when? Who are we hiring? Are they part time, full time? Like, are they
Right.
employees, contractors? Like, we got to answer those questions so we can get
Yeah.
super clear. And then we know, great, we need to hire 2 more people in 6 months, or we're going to go expand services to this new type of assessment we want to do or service we want to provide. What's the pricing for it? How many clients do you need to see? What's your availability for, every week? Like, you got to get that granular. But if you don't even have a vision of what that could look like or what that is for your business, you're just going to
Yeah.
keep doing what you're doing and you might not even grow.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. If you don't have some kind of a map, you're just going to be driving around in circles.
We gotta get intentional. Do you ever get on your car and not put the GPS on? I mean, I don't know that many of us do that anymore, unless we know where we're going, right? But we
Right.
need to know where we're going,
We need to know where you're
so we
going.
end up there. So
Yeah.
why would you do anything different with your business? You need
Yeah.
to plug in the address in the GPS for your business, so your business knows, oh, that's where we're going. Great. We might take a few detours. It might take us twice as long. Doesn't matter. The destination point is this, and we are clear on what that is.
Okay. So that's big picture. That's what all of it is driving towards, and that I agree. That's 100% important. But going back to the granular, going back to where we started, from the very beginning, you have to build in habits, right? Really good habits, strong financial habits, and paying yourself is one of those habits, right? So, what would be a reasonable percentage, frequency, practice around paying yourself if you are, let's say, in the first 3 years of owning a practice and you're solo provider versus if you've been at it for 5 or 10 years, you've got a thriving practice, you're doing just fine. What's reasonable? How do you think about paying yourself from the very beginning and then as you go a little bit further? Can you help
So
us
the
with that?
exercise we go through, I know it's like a it depends
Help,
answer, which everybody
help,
loves.
Carla.
Okay, so I'll make it more tangible because I know people want to know exactly the step by step. So we go through an exercise because everybody's needs are going to be different, right? But I always say, like, what is like what you would need in your personal life to take
hmm
from your business
hmm
to feed your family, pay your bills, whatever your needs are there. And sometimes people don't even have a number for that. So, like, it's totally okay if they don't. I understand it's finance is not for everybody, but
Yeah,
maybe they have an idea of what it needs to be. So we start with that as a goal. That's not
yeah,
today. We're not there today. It's okay.
yeah,
The goal is to make progress towards it, right? And so whatever it ends up being as a percentage of revenue, you can do the math on that. Um, but what I say is like we have to plug in the number in the budget and make sure it's affordable for the business to be able to pay that. Because if you are only making, let's say, $5,000 a month in your business and you want to pay yourself $5,000, that's probably not going to happen. Like that
yeah,
can be our goal. We're going to get there, but that might require you getting to $10,000 a month in revenue before you can actually afford to pay that. Because remember,
yeah,
the business has expenses. We have other costs that we have to account for. Not every piece of revenue is 100% your money in your pocket. And this is where I see a lot of business owners get confused. They're like, well, but I made 10,000. Shouldn't I just pay myself 10,000? And I'm like, hold on, time out. We need to
yeah,
check like 10,000. Then you got to pay your rent. Then
yeah,
you got to pay your taxes. Then you got to pay your subscriptions. Then you got to pay for all those courses and things you sign up for that you chose to spend money on. And now what's left? Maybe 4,000. Well,
yeah,
that's the amount that your business can afford to pay you today. Again, that's not going to be the amount always, but if you can start there consistently paying yourself that, and then you see that you're not having cash flow issues because that's where you're maybe don't want to pay yourself 4,000, you want to do 3,000 because you want to set $1,000 aside for savings for when things are not as great or maybe slow down season comes.
yeah,
You want to be prepared for that so you can still pay yourself 3,000 no matter what because you'll pull it from savings if you need to. And then you got to create a plan for how do we get from $5,000 months to $10,000 months, right? So
yeah,
that's where I would be putting my energy. Be like, I want to pay myself 5,000. I need to figure out how to make double that at least, just to
yeah,
make sure I can afford myself getting that from the business.
yeah. And just in that example that you just gave, 10,000, you want to pay 10, but no, you can pay yourself 5. That means, and but you can only afford to do 4, what you just said. That means you're taking home 40% of what you brought in that month. That means 60% of your gross income is going back into the business.
Hmm.
And that 40% that you're bringing home has to cover your mortgage, your own savings, your kids' supply, whatever, like your life, right?
Hmm.
That's,
Exactly.
and I think people don't realize how important that split is and how more conscious you need to be of that split. So if you don't want to put over 60% back into your business and you want to bring at least half of it home, ideally more than half of it home, then that means your business has to squeeze into what's left and you got to go make more money. You got to figure out a way to make more money, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Because I think people they think that the $10,000 is their money, and I'm like, no, that's the business money. The business pays
Oh,
you because you're an employee of the business or because you're the owner. You do work for the business, you get compensated. But that 10,000 is not your money. And I tell people
mm,
that because they're like, oh, let me just spend $10,000 on whatever, including my pay. It's like, no, no, no.
wow.
10,000 is what the business made. The business has to cover their expenses first. Then there's the money left for profit that either you pay yourself inside the expenses or outside from the profit. It doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, it's going to cover you in some way, ideally. But what happens is they don't pay themselves the $5,000 and they find ways to spend the $5,000 to grow the business, right? And then they end up not getting paid. And they're like, why is this happening? And it's
Yeah.
because you made decisions that directly impacted your ability to pay yourself
Wow.
that you can also back out of, by the way. They're not permanent. You
Right.
can choose differently going forward, but it has to
Right.
be intentional. And you got to look at the numbers to say, where is that five or $10,000 going, and make changes to that and be intentional. But I think people just think, oh, the business money is my money. No, you just own the business, but you're not entitled to that whole pot of money that comes in.
Good Lord. Do y'all hear that? That's a that's like, oh my gosh. That's not your money. That belongs to the business. That's the business's money. That's a whole different way of thinking about it, and then your business has to pay you. So, your business has to be healthy because that's where that wow. That's sort of a squirmy thing, isn't it? That'll make me a little squirmy, but you're so right. It's a completely different way of thinking about it. The business has to be healthy. This is the business's lifeblood, and then
Hmm.
out of that, the business pays you. Is there for people that this is, like, just really new or they know they need to do it, but it's a little overwhelming, can you give us some tips for I'm thinking about systems and rituals,
Mm,
like
yeah,
what's a way is there a weekly process to go through? Is there like how often do you pay yourself? Like one of the things I've been trying to do is like whatever money I decide to pay myself, I try to pay a little less than that, a certain percentage less than that so I can have a cushion building up, right?
that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Like how I've done it 1,000 ways. I've been in
Yeah,
practice
I'll
for 30
talk you to
years. I've
like
done
how
a
we like recommend you do it.
Yes, please
Obviously,
do.
everybody put their own flavor because you got to do it. I would say like you have to do what works for you. Otherwise, you're not going to follow the plan. And I
Yeah.
can give you guidelines and then adopt them how it best works and suits your habits. But you got to build in the habits, right?
Yep.
We're big on that here. Discipline is key in business, period. So if you're not disciplined today, make work towards making progress on getting better at discipline.
Yeah.
So what we do is we might have you normally I tell clients just review your numbers once a month, but if you're like not feeling in tune with your numbers, you should be looking at them every week,
Mm,
even if it's for 15 minutes, because then you know what happened. And you're still in a month where you're looking at it every week. So you know you can still make changes to improve the situation if it's not looking the way you want it. And this is where people get really scared to even look at the numbers. They're like,
yep.
well, I don't want to look at that. It's like gonna tell me things I don't want to know.
Yeah.
And then we open that up with them together, hand holding them through it, and they're like, "Oh, actually, it's not as bad as I thought." That's
I
great.
love that.
Or sometimes it's like, "Ooh, yeah, that looks terrible." I'm like, "Oh, but at least we know
At
now,
least
and
you
we can do
know.
something about changing that going forward because you still have control, right?" And people can make different decisions going forward. But if you don't even know what your starting point is, how do you know if you're making progress?
Yeah.
So we want to
So true.
start there with awareness. I would say no judgment, awareness. You are not your business. It's not a reflection of who you are or how bad you are with money or how what you didn't know about money. Like this is not you personally. This is just the business results. If we don't like them, we can change them.
Mhm.
If we like them, we could do more of it, right? And it can get fun because once you start making money and profit and paying yourself, you're like, wow, this is awesome. Let's do more of it. So
Right.
you want to get excited about your business, fix your numbers. Trust me, it will get you excited to show up to work every
You
day.
wanna get excited about your about your business, fix your numbers. There you go. I'm gonna
Easier
write
said
that
than
on my
done, but
forehead.
so start with awareness. So I say habit one is look at it every week if you have to. Normally it's once a month is enough, but if you're in a cash flow crunch or you're living, paycheck to paycheck in your business. That's something I talk about in our podcast too, is living paycheck to paycheck as a business owner. You want to be looking at it more often because you actually need to, you're like in a fire drill. You need to actually pay attention right now.
Yeah.
And then you might want to do things like profit first and allocate, or you want to start to like save money aside as money's coming in. So you're not taking everything out. And so that's one good habit is awareness. Start with that because it sounds simple, but I know so many people that are just like, I don't even want to open the file.
So
Like,
true.
I can't even look at it. Like, and then when they look at it, they feel overwhelmed. So then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to focus only on a few numbers for now. You're going to look at your profit, your revenue first.
Mhm.
That's how much money came in. You're going to look at your expenses, how much money
Mhm.
went out, and you're going to look to see if you made a profit or you had a loss. And this is where like it gets real because if you're
Mhm.
losing money, you're
Why
gonna
are you
have to
doing
do
this?
something different to
Yeah.
to change
Yeah.
that. And there's ways out of it, right? It's not all lost. And if you're making profit, fantastic. Are you making enough profit? That's a different question. But, at least okay, I'm making money. Like, I'm not spending everything that's coming in. That's good.
Right.
And then as you grow your business, you want to keep looking at that number. But those are I know there's a lot of details on the report and there's a lot of numbers and it can feel really overwhelming if you just look at your report and highlight those 3 lines. That's it. Just start there. Okay. Build a habit of getting familiar and comfortable with looking at those 3 numbers.
Revenue, expenses, profit or loss.
Profit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then if you're not paying yourself, this is where we want to start to make a line for paying yourself. And if we have profit left, there's room for you to get paid. That's fantastic. Let's also not forget taxes, because I think people don't think taxes throughout the year. They just think when they get the tax bill, they're like, and it's an emergency, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're paying taxes every quarter because you're not being withheld taxes like you did when you were an employee, you got to withhold your own. You need to be saving aside that money for taxes, and you only pay taxes if you make profit. So
Yep.
also just keep that in mind, because I know that's like an obvious one that people don't
I
think
always
about.
say, if you're having to pay taxes, that's a good sign. That means you actually made some money, right?
Exactly.
To be happy about
Exactly.
that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true.
So I'm excited to write my tax bill check, because I know I will keep the difference that's way higher than that. So
I love that. That's great,
just keep
Carla.
that
What a
in
great
mind.
attitude. Yeah.
I'm just paying my fair share, of course, nothing extra. But
But
those are the type of, things you want to be looking at. And as you get more comfortable with your numbers, you can start to, work through what's my plan to grow this business? What's my plan to change the trajectory of the numbers? How do I grow my profit? Do I lower expenses? Do I increase revenue? Do I do both? How do I get to pay myself that $5,000 a month I want to? Maybe my revenue needs to be $10,000 or $12,000 a month to just be able to afford to do that, put some money aside for savings, and cover my taxes. We don't want any of that to be an afterthought. I think often I see people, they're just like not thinking about it during the year. They're too busy running their business. I get it. This is just one more thing you have to do. But this is the thing that will get you out of business the
yeah.
fastest. Like, you will run out of money and you will run out of business. So
Mm-hmm.
like, it's fine if you want to ignore and put your head in the sand, but at some point it's going to be so ugly, it's going to pick out and you're going to have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And so rather deal with it while it's happening, while you could do something to change it,
Yeah.
rather than after, when it's like so bad that there's no way to save yourself from it.
Mm-hmm.
I had clients put in money personally in their established business after years of not struggling with profit. So don't feel like it's just a newbie in business kind of person
Right.
problem.
Right.
I have 7-figure business owners calling me saying, I had to write a check to cover payroll. They're like,
Yes.
in my X years of doing this, I've never had to do that. Help, please.
Yes.
And we walk them through a plan on how to get back to profitability, but it happens, and it's nothing to do with the owner doing anything wrong. Maybe they anticipated less expenses than they actually had. Like, things happen, right? And not always is it business is flourishing and growing and everybody wants to see and
I
pay
think
us for
that's
services.
important. That's important because I think it's really easy to look at people who have thriving group practices or have a different kind of business, and it looks like they are rolling in it, and they're driving a Tesla, whatever. And you can look at that and think they are making such good money. But the truth is,
Yeah, no.
no, I know that this is true because I have also known people who made at least mid 6 figures and up, and were taking home. Like, it would surprise you. It hurt you. They had the same money stress that the rest of us have because they're making the same mistakes we all have, which is, it is kind of a stick in your head in the sand. Like, I just don't want to look at it. I don't want to look at it. I would say as a CEO, you have a responsibility to look at it. You have to do this. I will share something that I've mentioned here before, that a coach that I used to work with, her business had grown to the point where she was in the like 3 to 4 million range, I think is what her gross revenues were. Her take home was nowhere near that, I know, but she was bringing in, she had a huge staff, had lots of overhead, she did lots of events. But she used to talk about how when she went to hire a bookkeeper, as things began to take off, she said, I need you to teach me what I'm doing here, and I need you to not make me feel stupid because I'm doing that already. So maybe you can speak to that a little bit. Like, I love what you're saying here. It's not just you. Like, a lot of people have this problem. You are actually not the unique snowflake that you think you are. And this actually is not just healers. Like, there's a lot of people out there who are bad at this because
General.
nobody teaches us how to do it.
Guess why I'm still in business after 8 years? Like, it's just, it's no coincidence that people have not been taught
Yes.
how to manage money. Like, this is not your fault, but it is your responsibility to educate yourself to
Yeah.
come out of it on the other side as a responsible CEO of your business, of the people that you employ, even if it's just you. It
Yeah.
is your responsibility to learn enough to understand it. You can outsource it and like have people help you with it, but you cannot advocate your decision making around your numbers or
100%.
awareness of it.
100%.
Um, but it's not unique. We have very successful, business owners making more than six figures a year, doing well financially. They're very focused on their numbers. I'll tell you that's one thing that's in common across my CEOs that are doing well is they
Ah,
care about their numbers, they manage the numbers, and they know their
yeah.
numbers.
Mhm.
And even though we're doing the work for them, they are still very in tune. They might have
Mhm.
delegated a lot of the workload on it, but they are very much in sync, talking about their numbers and knowing what's going on. And
I
it's
love
not
that. That's a
unique,
good point.
right, to small businesses. It's not unique to big businesses. Everybody struggles with numbers at some point. And then we go through seasons, right? Business is bad or like the industry's down. Like these are real things that
Yeah.
COVID happens, cyber attacks happen, and then we see people struggle. And this is nothing we call for. It's just what happened and had to deal with it. So it's going to happen at some point. Is whether or not you're ready for it. And we prepare our businesses with a good cash runway or a line of credit or something that helps us weather and is have enough time to get through that
Mhm.
crisis and be able to come up with a plan to turn it around. But it's not unique and it's not a reflection on you being a bad CEO. But if you are ignoring it, then don't expect it to get better because it won't just magically, get better. You got to put in the work and do the intentional planning and decision making to get you there.
If you ignore it, it's not gonna get better. I think healing arts people can relate to that because that's what we say to our clients all the time.
Funny how you
Whatever
don't take your own advice.
funny how that is. Walk your talk, sister. Yeah, we tell our clients, like, come on in, we're gonna deal with this. I know it's hard, but we're gonna look this monster in the face and it's gonna be fine. But we don't do that ourselves. You are so right. That is so true.
Because it's hard and we're humans and that's okay. And we know it's hard and we don't expect this to be everyone's favorite thing. It is ours, but that's just what we do. We're good with it. It's our thing because we're good with it because we're we educate ourselves in it, we
Yeah.
understand it, can now help others understand it as well. So it can also be your thing if it's not today, but you
Yeah,
got to put in the work, right? Like just like you put in the work in your practice and what you do and the service you provide, and you go get CEU credits and you get training and you get better at your art. It's not different with money. But if you're not putting the effort to get better with money, then it's not just going to magically solve itself,
that's so
unfortunately.
true. You may surprise yourself. You may actually like this better than you think once you dig into it and learn what you're doing. I also love what you just said, Carla, about, that more successful people had in common was they did know this stuff, and even when they were outsourcing it to someone else to do the actual tracking or whatever, they were still on top of it. I'm interested in that. What else do they have in common? Are there
Mm,
what else do
good
you see?
question.
Yeah.
They're very intentional about the setting the direction for their business. So they're not leaving it to chance. They know what they're trying to achieve by when, and we have timeline with like measurable goals, right? SMART goals, measurable target timeline.
Right.
It's very
Specific.
concrete. Yeah, it's very specific way of thinking about setting your goals up for the future,
Mhm.
and they take the time away to do that. So like I know you think, oh, my business can't afford for me to step out for a day to go planning. It's like your business cannot afford not to have you go do planning because then otherwise it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna grow.
Love that.
So
Love that.
we do it quarterly in our with our clients and our my own business as well. And this
I
is
do
just something
too.
I brought from corporate. Like
Yep.
it's just my cadence. I do it quarterly. I take some time to write out goals. I communicate that to my team, and we do the same thing with our clients. And then if financial goals are changing, we're also take an opportunity to adjust that. See, okay, how do we do last quarter? What do we want to do the next 3 months? Did anything change for the rest of the year? So they are planning proactively, and this is
Yep.
something that those CEOs that are more successful do. We also prioritize rest. Those CEOs that are doing well and performing well also take care of themselves. They do self care where they might step out of the business for a few weeks, a month, whatever. It could be a week even. They are taking time to rest. I actually just came back from a 1 week vacation completely disconnected, no internet connection. There was no way for me to
Nice. Nice.
be able to help. And nothing fell apart, right? My team had it covered, like things run well. Luckily, we didn't have any issues. And this speaks to systems and processes and ways that we run the business that are very intentional, crafted around the support our clients need, the things that we need to make sure we're always doing on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. This didn't just happen by accident, but we do take time away because this is where we recharge, where we come with new ideas, where we
Yeah.
are able to bring fresh perspective.
Yeah.
That time away is so important and valuable to your business because if you're not resting and you're always in it, there's no creativity or innovation coming when you're in a day to day.
It's so true. It's so true. And if you're running a small business on your own, or if you're the group practice owner and you've got people around you, but it's all really on your shoulders, it's very easy to sort of get stuck in the rut of just getting through the day, returning the phone calls, seeing the clients, addressing the staff issues, and never stepping out of it enough where you can see the whole picture. I love this, Carla. I am a huge fan of systems and processes. I sort of hammer that a bit here. I'm also a huge fan of regular planning, daily, weekly, quarterly, monthly, all the things. I spend days and days at the turn of the year mapping out a plan for the next year. And then I have a whole process. I use the full focus planner that Michael Hyatt has. Currently, that's my tool of the moment. But I also have found that taking time away for a personal retreat, even one day a month, if I can take half a day and go to the library or a coffee shop and just review, where am I at? Am I on track with what I said I wanted to do? And where am I behind, or where am I ahead? What do I need to adjust? You are right. All of that is about intentionality, which is sort of a strong theme today, I think. Um,
Yeah, nothing happens
yeah,
by accident. And I think one last one I'll add
yeah,
is they're paying themselves, right? Because they're not growing resentful of their business. They're making sure that they're cared for in that time off, self-care. It's also coming with like that compensation piece where they feel they're more than fairly compensated, that their business is helping them not just pay a salary, but also build wealth outside of the business, which is a big theme for us, is you can't put all your eggs in one basket as in one day I'll sell my business and I'll make millions. It's like you also want to be building wealth outside of your business with the extra money your business is producing to take outside to build that personal wealth as well.
yeah, yeah. So true. But you can't do that if you don't have the foundations in place.
That's right.
I
Systems and
love this.
processes.
Isn't it? I love this. So I'm taking lots of notes, which I don't need to because we're recording this. But what the heck? There's certain really sweet little nuggets that you've dropped today that I want to review, and then we're going to bring this to a close. Okay,
Okay.
that's where I want to go. Um, so you were talking about sort of a series of steps to go through as you're trying to kind of get a handle on this. And you said your very first thing to do is awareness. So do whatever you have to do to figure out what's working, what isn't, how much money you're spending, how much money you're making, whatever, but just pure awareness of what you got. Then the second one you said is to know these basic numbers: revenue, expenses, profit or loss. And there's lots that, a bookkeeper can help you figure that out. Lots of bookkeeping programs can do that. Quicken can help you do that. There's lots of ways. And then 3, pay yourself and pay your taxes. Those are the 2 steady things that need to happen no matter what. And then I wrote down 4, adjust. Like once you know all this stuff, then make whatever adjustments you need to make, whether it is trimlining your expenses or figuring out a way to make more money, adjusting your projections, which is what you're good at helping people with. So that's a very specific, here's sort of a step 1, 2, 3, guys, that y'all can do. I love that. The other thing that you said that I love is this last little bit about what ties our successful people together. Because, that's helpful too. I don't ever think about that. One of my favorite people to follow is James Wedmore, and he
Hmm.
often will say, success leaves clues. Success leaves clues. So look at the people. What makes this hard is we don't see the behind the scenes. So
Mm-mm.
a lot of people look successful, but we don't really know if they are or not. But you see that, and you just said, um, number 1 is that they take time out for quarterly planning or some kind of regular planning. 2, you said they take time for rest. 3, you said they're extremely intentional about their business and what they're growing. They do know their numbers and they're very hands-on about where they stand and where they're going. And 4, they pay themselves, period, from the beginning. because this isn't volunteer work and you don't want to start resenting it. That's another thing that you have really, I think, sort of strongly advocated for. You will resent it. I will say you will resent your clients. If you're not bringing money home from this, you're putting a lot of work into it, and there are going to be days when you're like, I don't even know why I'm doing this anymore. So that was super helpful. Thank you for that. Not to mention 1,000 other things you said that were really good here. And I learned what owner's equity means. So
Accounting lingo, got to throw it in a little here and there.
they did not teach us that in social work school.
I know, right?
Yeah. Thank you for this, Carla. This is super helpful. And I love your enthusiasm. You have this really great way of like, pop, pop, pop. Come on, people, do this. And also, it's okay. You can feel bad about it. It's okay. Everybody does. But let's fix it. It's okay to not be in a good place.
Exactly.
Let's fix it.
Take, a minute or two to like do your feelings, feel your feels is fine. I get it. You're in this industry, we know.
Yeah.
And then we gotta like treatment plan it and let's get to action, right? So
treatment plan it. That's great.
financial treatment plan is gonna be what we're gonna do.
Oh my gosh, that's exactly what we need to do. We need a financial treatment plan. I am gonna write that down. I'm gonna use that. I need a financial treatment plan. All of my people need a financial treatment plan. That's great. I love that. We know how to do that.
That's going to be our next offer.
There you go. Here's your financial treatment plan.
Yes.
I love it. You're welcome. We're just came up with a plan. Yeah.
Perfect.
So, Carla, tell everybody how to find you, the name of your podcast. I've already forgotten the name of your podcast.
Yeah, thank you. So we just launched our new podcast, CEO Financial Clarity Corner. For those of you who are like, okay, I never got the education. I'm ready to take action and get better with my money. It's time for you to get the tools and resources in order to do that. So go check that out, follow, rate, review. We would love to have you there. We like to put very good educational, valuable content, actionable steps for you to take, just like you heard today. We give a lot of insights and we just try to give it away because I think it's important that business owners get better about their finances in their business. They're not going to do better if they don't know better. So we are going to put those resources out there for you. If you want to follow along our newsletter, if you're more like a reader type, then we have that on our website at wealthworthwithin.com. And you could also
say that again.
wealthworthwithin.com. Okay. And you could also book a call to talk to one of our fractional CFOs if you're ready to hire one and you want to outsource some of that, or even bookkeeping support that we spoke about today. And we put a lot of content out on social media. You can follow us at Wealth Worth Within on all social platforms.
Love it. Thank you. That's awesome. Y'all go to check out her podcast because I have found that when you listen to this kind of podcast, you will pick up little bits that you don't even realize you're picking up. And you may listen to an episode and not understand half of it, but there will be something in there that'll be like, oh, that's a good point. I never thought of that before. So I encourage, and you can hear how much fun Carla is. So
I do make it entertaining because I feel like finances can be really hard and dry and like confusing. And we don't want that to be the case. We want you to be like happy about your profit, happy that you pay yourself, happy that you have money, like so you could do more of it for the long term. And then we do have an episode specifically around breaking the paycheck to paycheck cycle in business, as a business owner, because we understand it's just hard sometimes. And we want you to, listen to that and get some ideas on how to get out of it.
I'll go find that. We'll link to that in the show notes. Okay. So that'd be a good one to watch. Okay, good. Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely put that in the show notes.
Sounds good.
And so one of the last things I want to ask you is, I always ask this at the end when I remember to do so. Is there anything that we haven't talked about, anything we haven't covered that I haven't asked you, or just anything that you just feel called to share that will make this conversation complete?
We talked a lot about intentionality today. I want to make sure the audience leave with a sense of possibility thinking rather than feeling stuck or constrained by what your business is doing today. What your business is doing today is not necessarily what your business has the capacity or ability to do in the future. You get to decide what that is. So don't feel held back by how bad or not good or not fun your business has been. It could be so much better, but you gotta get intentional and you gotta get in front of it and you gotta do the work if you want it to be better going forward. But just don't let that hold you back.
Possibility thinking. I love that. Yeah. Get in front of it, turn this around, implement a financial treatment plan, and have some
Yes.
fun.
That's right. That's what we're here for, right?
That's great. That's great. I love that.
And celebrate your wins. Like sometimes I think we get so fixated on the bad. What are some good things that are happening? Are your clients getting better? Do they
Yes.
love coming to see you? We need to celebrate that too. The fact that you even have clients, for God's sakes. You know how hard
Yes.
that is? Like give
Yes.
yourself a little credit and pat in the back for that too.
100%. Thank you for that, Carla. They needed that. Thank you for that. That's beautiful. Y'all needed that, didn't you? Yes, you did. I know you did. Thank you. What a delightful conversation. I knew it would be. Thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy, very full life to be with us here today from
All
the
good.
beautiful, beautiful state of Oregon, one of my favorite places in the country. And I look forward to hearing, guys, what you all think about this. I would love to know what your takeaway is from today. By all means, reach out to Carla through her website, which we will have below, and go follow her on her podcast and learn. And let's turn this thing around and do some good with it. All right, great. Okay, so with that, I will bring this to a close. Hope you guys have an awesome week. Go out and make some money and do some good with it. And I will see you next week right here on the Ideal Practice Podcast. Bye now. Hey, y'all. If this program has become important to you, if Ideal Practice matters, it would mean so much to me if you'd be willing to take just a minute to do one or two of the following things. First of all, would you follow or subscribe to the show here at Ideal Practice? Following me helps you because you'll never miss an episode, but it helps me as well for all kinds of reasons. To do that, all you have to do is go to the show page for Ideal Practice on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. There, just click on the plus sign that you'll usually find in the top right-hand corner, or click on the word follow that you're going to find somewhere there on that page. Of all the things, this really is the most important thing you can do for the podcast itself. While you're there, it would be extra special if you would be willing to give me a 5-star rating, and even better than that, a review with your own words. Your words matter. And when you write what you feel, what you think, you uplift and encourage others. And I love that. If you want to go a step further than that, take your favorite episode or two, one of the ones that has meant a lot to you, and share it with a friend. Could you do one or two of those things for me? I promise I will love you forever. You guys matter to me, and I value your support more than I can possibly say. Thank you, sweet friend, for anything you can do to help me out and support the show. I'll see you again soon.